and gentlemen. I hope that everybody is doing well today. This is Trisha here to sketch another insect with you guys. I hope that we're all kind of getting situated. I haven't seen anybody ask in the chat for any type of certain insect yet. I know that last week we really wanted to do some wasps, so we got to do that the golden paper wasp. But I had somebody in the comments last week ask if we could do a Pepsis, or this is what we call a Tarantula Hawk. So I was thinking we might sketch this unless anybody has another opinion. Let me get my pointer on top. There we go. Alright, so I figured we could kind of sketch our Tarantula Hawk unless anybody else has a different opinion. So a couple of fun facts about Tarantula Hawks. They are the state insect of New Mexico. Alright, so if you ever head off to New Mexico, this is actually Angel Peak. If you ever go off to Mexico, you might see some of these wasps. Now, these guys are huge in comparison to a lot of the other flying insects around. So if we throw a ruler up next to my Tarantula Hawk, because I know that you guys like to have a little bit of an idea of scale. This is about your scale. So if I was to line this, if I was to line the ruler up to about the head, from about the head to the end of the wings, our insect is about 1 3/8 inches. Oh, hi! Hi, Mayra. Nice to see ya. So this is our Tarantula Hawk. She's about 1 3/8 inches, probably. And if you don't know much about their life cycles, they're kind of fun because they're called a Tarantula Hawk wasp, and that's because they actually will feed on tarantulas in New Mexico. Alright. So their sting has the ability to not only paralyze other tarantulas, but then these wasps are actually strong enough to get to take the tarantula and actually drag it back to a hole in the ground, where these ladies will lay an egg on the tarantula while it's still paralyzed. So then our wasp grub, our baby wasp, will chew a small hole into the tarantula's abdomen and kind of shuffle their way in there. And they're going to start eating the tarantula alive from the inside. But an interesting thing about that is that they want the tarantula to live as long as possible. So they're going to start by attacking non-vital organs first. So that's a little bit about my Tarantula Hawk. Let's see. We can put its name up here. Tarantula Hawk Wasp. All of the Tarantula Hawks are... My computer has decided to turn the autofocus back on. Silly computer. There we go. Okay. Yeah, much better. So we've got this Tarantula Hawk Wasp, and Tarantula Hawk Wasps are in the genus Pepsis. And so I'm just going to put Pepsis SP because I have not identified this individual down to species yet. Now, there are a variety of tarantula wasps and cricket hunters and spider wasps. And so these guys are in the family Pompilidae. Just to give you an idea of kind of where they sit in the taxonomic in the taxonomic regions, you know. All right, heads up, ladies and gentlemen. I might be feeling a little under the weather today, so yeah, we're gonna have lots of fun anyway. Okay, so all right, a lot of times when I am sketching my insects, I like to start at the head and then work my way back towards the body. And then, so we're going to get all the body done, and then we're going to probably go back and fill in the legs and the wings. An interesting little factoid about Tarantula Hawks as we're looking at this head is that a lot of times these Tarantula Hawks, when they pass away, their antenna curl up. And I guess their antenna will kind of sit like that naturally too. I just think that's kind of cool. So our head does this kind of square-like shape. We do have these two little projections up here in the front of the head. And this is going to be kind of where those antennae are connected. So I'm just going to go ahead and give us those. And we've got, let's see, two fairly awesome compound eyes. I'm going to make sure that I pull it in a little bit and then push it out just a little bit so that the eyes expand a little bit past the exoskeleton. That's going to give my sketch just a little bit of depth. And we're going to do that on both sides. So Tarantula Hawks, if you I would suggest not getting stung by them because they are a 4.0 on the Schmidt Pain Index, which means they are one of the most painful stings, right? I have a whole video about the Schmidt Pain Index if you wanted to go and check that out. Alright, so we've got those two big compound eyes, and just like a variety of the wasps, the bees and wasps that we've sketched already, they're going to have these three simple eyes right here in this triangle. So we can go ahead and get that. Go ahead and get those rolling. Alright, and then I'm going to deactivate my camera just so that we can, oh no, refocus the microscope. My microscope camera is not moving. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I have had this problem before, and and to fix it, I've had to turn OBS off and to turn it and to come back on. That's really unfortunate. Let's see. I know. I'm gonna try this. Alright, I think I'm gonna have to restart my microscope camera to get it back up and running, but hopefully that won't take too long. Sorry about this, guys. No. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have to end it really quick, and I will be right back. I just have to restart. I have to restart my live streaming program so that I'm able to show you the microscope. I'm Alrighty, I think I'm all back. Hi everybody, I'm sorry about that, but we have everything working again. I have my sketch here, and we can deactivate my sketch, and we can move my buggy. Perfect. Awesome. So, we're actually gonna just zoom in really close to these antennae so that we can check out some of the features on these, and maybe even count some segments. So, we have to change the focus just a little bit so that we can see the entire curl. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, probably about 8 antennal segments, and they are in a circle. Yes, Marley, we get to do Pepsis. I believe it was probably you who asked, right? Last week? So we've got 8 of those segments. Now, Mara asked, what kind of features must we look for to draw this species? And don't mistake them between 2 of the same family. Now, I will admit that I am not sure exactly which species of Pepsis this is, but it is in that genus. Now, if I can site ID the genus in areas that have tarantulas, right? So generally, the Wasp Size is fairly large. They're about 1.5 to 2 inch. They tend to be about 1.5 to 2 inches long. This one is from head to the end of the wings, about 1 3/8 inches, but its abdomen's curled under a little bit. So if we're looking at that, it's going to be kind of size and color. A lot of times these Pepsis, these Tarantula Hawks, are going to be metallic. They'll be either metallic blue or black, and they generally are going to have orange wings. So we're going to check out that entire those. But the characteristic that I think is kind of cool about Pompilids, and is the defining characteristic for the family, is a subdivide in the mesiepimeron, which we'll be checking out. It's a subdivide on the middle, one of the middle sclerites on the thorax. And that's a characteristic that you really only can see on the edge on the lateral side of the wasp. So we'll be checking that out shortly. Yep, so this is our kind of curly antenna. They come back up and around, and so I'm making sure that I get some type of curl up in here to show you that. Love the color and how they flick their wings. Yes, exactly. Alright, so I have my antenna all figured out. I'm gonna, we might even, why not? We might as well zoom really far in and check out the texture on this exoskeleton, because they are absolutely gorgeous. So, if we're looking at the texture or the structure of our exoskeleton, you can see that it's got this very metallic sheen to it, and this is one of those colors that's not gonna fade over time. My wasp is gonna continue to stay this beautiful metallic color for the entire life of the specimen. All right. So our Tarantula Hawk does have a little bit of a neck, so we can get that sketched in, and we're moving back into the thorax. All right, so right about here, we give ourselves just a little bit of a neck segment. It gives our wasp the ability to kind of shift its head around, and they do, oh my goodness, yep. I promise I'm still here. You ladies and gentlemen can still hear me. My computer has decided to say, you're not feeling well today? We're going to try and run with all of the technical difficulties. Okay. So, we've got this thorax all situated. It does have these really cool kind of shouldery spots. Oh, that's what happened. I promise, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here. I will be joining. You'll be able to see my beautiful face shortly. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and continue sketching our friend here. She has these cool little pleurons, right? So after we come down a little bit, we want to give our wasp its little shoulder pieces, and this is where the wings are going to be connected, right? So these little shoulder pieces will help protect all of those joints inside where the wings connect. You'll notice that little gold dot. That little gold dot is just the pin that is going through the specimen. There are a couple of sutures or lines in the exoskeleton that we can go ahead and sketch. They look something like this, and then they come down to a point right about here. Okay. If you've been hanging out with me before, you'll know that I like to kind of start the wings, but not finish them until I get the rest of the body situated. Alrighty. And if we move our lady down a little bit, we'll see that those wings have a large coverage of the abdomen. So after we get to about here, we're actually not going to see the abdomen much. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom out and scooch it back just a little bit. Now, if we're watching these wings, they are this brilliant bright orange color, and the color that you're seeing on your screen is pretty true to what the wasp looks like. So she has these absolutely gorgeous bright orange wings, and at the very ends, they do have this little bit of modeling, or this little bit of kind of darker lines at the end. These lines in real life almost look like they're gray to black. The microscope shows them just a little bit lighter. And then this area right here behind, this is clear, not really colored at all. Alrighty. So, if I am going ahead and sketching those, I would be coming from here, and the left is on top of the right, so I'm just going to go ahead and give it looks a little bit like that, and it does come up to a little bit of a sharper point. Okay. And then the next side, the question is, should we draw the abdomen on this side, or should we just do both wings? And then I think we're just going to do both wings on the dorsal side, and then we'll do a lateral view of our wasp, because the lateral view is where you're going to see a lot of the characteristics. Well, you're going to see the characteristic for the family I was talking about earlier. All right. Come on, friend. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can put a couple of the wing venations in our drawing so that we've got a little bit more detail. And it looks like the darkened edge and the border of the wings runs all the way along the side. Yeah, so tarantula hawks not only have the ability to kind of drag a tarantula across the desert floor into its burrow, but sometimes tarantula hawks will even take off and lift off and carry tarantulas through the air. So not only do you have this huge wasp flying through the air that, some people tend to be a little frightened of. But also, they can be carrying a tarantula, right? And I'm not super sure about how much lift or strength they're going to need. I know that these guys are huge. Eric might know a little bit more about their actual Pepsis flight patterns. If we were going to talk about kind of the strongest vein in an insect's wing, it's going to be the coastal vein. So it's this vein up here, this leading edge that really helps with the strength of flight. This first wing, it's called the costa. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and give myself a couple of more splits on our wing venation before we move on. Okay. Now, our tarantula hawks do have they are pretty leggy. So, if we were going to go ahead and look at maybe the front left leg, and see, because tarantula hawks are so huge, we can see these characteristics really, really well. Now, we are looking at the front leg. This right here is going to be the femur. You can see it from the top. Then we've got this part right here is the tibia. And then these are the tarsal segments. My tarantula hawk has 1, 2, 3, 4, approximately 5 tarsal segments. All right. Like we know, the first pair of legs comes off the first segment. Alrighty. There's a little bit of an expansion at the end of the femur that kind of helps with the connection to the tibia. And the tibia, it looks like it has these kind of thicker hairs along the bottom of the leg, so I can go ahead and kind of sketch some of those in there. Yeah, sometimes we've run out of space on our paper. Oh man, so this is tarsal segment 1 is kind of this rectangle shape, but then the next 3 are all triangular. And a lot of tarsal segments in the insect world are going to be this kind of triangular shape that kind of fit inside of one another. And then it finishes all up with the last segment and 2 little tarsal claws. And if anyone is curious about how to spell any of the terminology that I am saying out loud, you can go ahead and ask in the chat box. I think that we've used all of these terms before in previous live streams. All right. I'm going to go ahead and give a matching leg on the other side before we move over to our middle and hind legs. Tarantula hawks are large, so sometimes it's hard to keep enough room on the paper to get them sketched out. I know that when I did the water scorpion last week, I had to kind of sketch the second half of its body kind of next to it. All right. So then we have two front legs. We're going to say that my right front leg is just a little bit bent, and that's why it looks a little bit shorter than the other one. Yeah. Alrighty. And we're moving on backwards. Now, the mid and the hind legs, maybe I'm going to... I'll leave it here. And then pull it over. So... our middle and our hind legs, as you can see, they both kind of go in this backward facing direction, and they look like they're coming out a little further back. So we want to make sure that we give that space for them. So we can start our middle leg right about maybe here, and our hind leg we're going to start kind of way back here. Where these wings cross is almost where, well, it's a little bit in front of where the abdomen starts. All right. So when we are seeing these guys, we're seeing not much of the femur left here, but the tibia, you can see the full length of the tibia, and it does have these tibial spines. And these tibial spines, the tibial spines are strong with this one. Hi, Brachypelma. Yeah, so as we are sketching our insect, I would say definitely go ahead and try to kind of sketch along and follow shapes. I think that it's easiest to kind of start drawing insects when I got my screen back. I'm back! Okay. Now, I think that... Hi, Brachypelma. I think that it's easiest to start kind of drawing arthropods when we're thinking about kind of drawing basic shapes, right? So we've got kind of an oblong rectangle, kind of a rectangle with an angle, and if we break those pieces up into smaller and smaller parts, that's going to help us kind of give us a view of our insect. Now, also be patient with yourself. Sometimes it just takes a couple times. And then this next segment is called the tibia. And that's kind of like our leg between our knee and our ankle, right? And just know that each one of these lines, they're not going to be bending by themselves because it's an exoskeleton. It's hard and solid. So wherever you see an insect bending its body, there has to be a joint there. So that might help you also, making sure that you have individual joints wherever you see the body bend. All right, we've got this rectangle for this guy, and then we're going to draw 3 more triangles. And these triangles sit inside of one another. Okay, and then we've got a final one with a little, it's kind of like a half moon at the end of it, and 2 tarsal claws. All right, and there's a name for this pad in between its toes. I'm not sure if I remember it. Alrighty, this is our femur, and then our tibia. Okay, and then our tarsal segments. the first tarsal segment on the hind leg is actually longer than all of the other ones. So we're going to make sure that this guy kind of expands a little further down. I'd also say that when you're drawing, it's easiest to make sure that your lines stay nice and soft instead of drawing them kind of hard, so that if you do make it, when you do make a mistake, you have the ability to erase it fairly readily. The eraser is my best friend. Alright, so I have all of these left legs taken care of. And we can make sure that the legs on the right side match up, right? So if we draw a line all the way across, this is about where my middle leg should come out, and then this is about where my hind leg should come out. Knowing that all insects are symmetrical, they are the same on the left and the right side, also helps. Because then, when you see one side, you have the ability to know what both sides look like. And just taking it step by step. I feel like with sketching these guys, sometimes we kind of want to rush through it, and if we rush through it, we miss the details. Something like that, friends. And then one more. And then we can go ahead and look at defining characteristics for this family. The family of Pompilids. Now, where Tarantula Hawks are pretty much limited to places where there are tarantulas, right? Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada. I think there might be some in California, but I've not been to California yet. There are Pompilids, or spider wasps, all over the United States. So you might not see this particular species in your neighborhood, but you will definitely have wasps in this family, the family Pompilidae. The Aurelia is the topad. All right, we've got a bonus word from Eric. Thank you. So right about here, in between our tarsal claws, there is this little segment in between the toes, and that is called the Aurelia. And that is the pad in between their toes. Alrighty. Now, all I've got to do is get our Tarantula Hawk sideways so that we have the ability to see its lateral, because the lateral is really where it's at for this guy. We'll be able to see all of the abdominal segments and the sclerites and the thorax. Alright. Cool. Awesome. That might be why I couldn't. So Eric mentions that he's actually never seen a tarantula hawk actively flying with a tarantula. Most of the, they generally are going to be kind of dragging tarantulas, generally they're going to be stinging tarantulas that already kind of have burrows, so they don't really even have to dig. They just kind of drag the tarantula back down into its own burrow and kind of cap it off. Alright, so that's our dorsal. I'm going to turn to our next page so that I can get a good lateral picture. And I'm going to turn my paper. Aha! That's what it is. If we're talking about cicada killers. If we're talking about cicada killers, they can fly with the cicadas, but tarantula hawks flying with tarantulas might be a little bit of a stretch. All right, I'm gonna start with giving myself a little bit of a neck. So where I'm starting with my lateral view is right here. I'm giving myself an idea of where the head connects to the thorax, and then I'm gonna work my way from that. So I'm gonna come up and down, and this shape is almost gonna look like a teardrop. All right, but where it kind of starts to come down, this is going to be a lot of mouth parts, and I would have to definitely zoom in on that. Let's check this out. All right, so if you've, that's actually the end. This is actually the end of the antenna right here. All right, so we have a couple of different things happening here on the bottom of the head. So I'm gonna go ahead and give us this suture line right here, which is right about here. All right, and then it's got kind of all of this extra stuff, which is all small little plates for mouth parts. You've got the mandibles in there. Tarantula hawks are nectarivorous. Yep, this word. Nectarivorous. They're nectarivorous. Which means that they're gonna feed as adults mostly on nectar, sugar water. They really like flowering mesquite, for instance. They also don't really like to fly too much in the crazy heat. I think that that's probably why you see them beating their wings so frequently, is they're trying to kind of thermoregulate their body. So I'm not 100% sure on how I want to draw this mouth part yet, but I'm thinking that we've got some type of mandible down here. And a lot of times mandibles viewed from the side are going to be these triangular pieces because you're looking at the chompy bits are on the inside, right? And then we've got our eyes. They're so cool. I think that these eyes look almost like little water droplets. And you can see one of those little ocelli or simple eyes right up here in the top, so you can go ahead and sketch that. The other one would be right up here, but we can't see that one from this view. Our friend here has some connections for the antenna. So we've got 1, 2, and then that's where our antenna are going to come off from. Alrighty, and then I'm going to give us a little bit of a zoomed out view. Okay. To give us an idea of where we're going for our curls. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then when you go over top, right? When you go over top, you want to make sure that you go through and you erase those lines. That's just going to give our sketches a lot more of a clean look. And if you don't do it right away, I would say a lot of times when I don't do it right away, I will forget to go back and erase the lines, and then your image just doesn't look as clean, as sharp. So our antennae are kind of on top of each other, but that's all right. All right, so this antenna comes through like this, and this antenna comes through like this, but it's behind, right? So we get that little bit of a cue, and you can kind of see, I would even say, hey, with a little arrow, you know, we've got some pretty curly antenna here. Now our neck space is going to be pretty dark. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in right now. And there it is, the mesiepimeron. Drum roll, please. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give you the spelling for it in the chat box. This is called the mesiepimeron, and this is this sclerite right here, or this piece of exoskeleton right here. This is called the epimeron, right? And it's the mesiepimeron because it's the one that connects to the middle leg. Mesi means middle, right? So we've got the front one right about here. This actually coming around, this is the pronotum. This is the top part of the exoskeleton kind of wrapping down and around the thorax. And the distinguishing characteristic, the characteristic that you can say, hey, I know it's a pompilid because I see this, is that line right there that cuts the mesiepimeron in half. That's your distinguishing characteristic for the family Pompilidae. So not only all Tarantula Hawks will have that characteristic, but also any spider hawks or cricket hunters related insects. So when I am starting my thorax, I'm going to imagine kind of the overall shape. So I'm going to give myself this hump back, all right, and then I'm going to go ahead and give myself this triangle right here. And that's going to be the shape of my pronotum. So I give it kind of rounded, and then I come down at an angle. Ah, thank you, Eric. Alrighty. This is how I'm going to imagine. There's a little segment right in here, and that's the tegula. That's where this wing is protecting. So I'm going to give myself this little, there's almost like this half moon in here. And then we've got a variety of different, we have a variety of different sclerites, different pieces in here. And I'm not going to know what all of those little pieces are, but I promise you they all have names, which is wild to me. All right. Now, the pronotum, we're going to go ahead and give ourselves another little segment down here, and I believe that what we would call that segment would be the coccyx, because it is where the front legs connect. So we have this guy right here, that's our coccyx, and then we're going to go ahead and give it a femur. And then the tibia, I'm going to say, is going to kind of move kind of more forward like this. Let's see. This guy is so big, I've got to move my microscope more regularly. Oh, wait a minute. I was mistaken. I was zoomed in too far. All right. This segment right here, I'm not sure what that one's called. This one is the coccyx. Right, so that's going to be kind of our hip bone where it connects. And then we've got almost like this little triangular piece. It's kind of like a knee. It helps them change the direction. And then we've got this femur. And that's the femur that we could see from the top side. Alrighty. If anyone hears my cats, they have the zoomies right now, so they are running all over the house. Alrighty, so we've got our coccyx, our femur, we've got this tibia part. And that is a tibial spine right there. Yay, I love my tibial spines. This guy right here that looks long and thin, that's going to be a tibial spine. So we're going to make sure that when we get to our tibia and we give it this little bit of an arch, we can also go ahead and say, oh, I have a spike there. And then we've got all the little tarsal segments. And we know from sketching them from above that that it's one rectangle, 3 triangles, and then the last segment, which is kind of another triangle with that little toe pad and the 2 tarsal claws. Alrighty? So that's going to be our first leg. Now, when we're moving back to our second leg, this is going to be where we're going to make sure that we have that suture line on the epimeron. Right here. Okay, so to sketch that one out, I'm gonna get my wing. Alrighty, and then you see how it is this kind of long oval shape? That's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for kind of this long oval shape on the side of its body. Alrighty, and then snap in half, right? That's the character for the family. Right there. Alrighty. So let's get the rest of this leg figured out. Is there dust on it? Probably. Let's see. I would like to say both answers. You are likely seeing You're likely seeing both hairs and a little bit of dust. This is an older specimen, so it's definitely possible that there's dust. But I would say that this has almost a yellow pollen-y color to it. And like I mentioned before, these ladies spend a lot of time on and near flowers. So they are a pollinator, right? They are going to be able to pick up a little bit of pollen and move that pollen from one flower to another. They're not a major pollinator, right? But I would definitely say that there is a chance that those little itty bitty yellow bits that you're seeing on its leg are, I would think that those little golden parts are probably little bits of pollen from flowers from when it was feeding on whatever nectar source it was on. Yeah. All right, so then we've got our leg segments again. So the middle leg connects directly to the mesiepimeron. All right. And because we're viewing it from the lateral side, you're not going to see all of the segments, but we know from sketching previously what those segments look like. So we can go ahead, give it a coxie. I'm actually going to, when I draw my femur, I'm going to pull it up. That'll just give it the appearance that it's kind of walking. And then I'm going to go ahead and erase this line in here. Alrighty, so I've got a coxa, a femur, and then I'm going to pull down the tibia. And that'll give us, yes, see, that'll give us this kind of walking shape. Our tibial spines exist, so we got to make sure there's two of them back here. And then the tarsal segments. Alrighty. And then going ahead and moving backwards. So we've got this segment right here, and then where our hind leg connects. Yummy. Alright, so this right here is going to be our coxa, our femur coming in this direction, and then our tibia moving backwards. There's a little bit more of a separation between the middle and the hind legs. So I'm trying to get that all kind of sorted. My legs are going to overlap to a point where, here, we'll start the femur about here. There. All right, the femur, and then a longer tibia. And let's check out this hind leg, because I think this hind leg actually has... The tibia is very similar, but I want to give you kind of a zoomed in look on the tarsal segments of this guy, because on the hind leg, this is the first tarsal segment. It's almost... Well, let's say it's 3 times the length of the second one, right? So making sure that that tarsal segment is super, super long is going to be important. Tarsal segment. Okay. So we've got our head, we've got our antenna all figured out, we've got a front leg, a middle leg, and a hind leg. I will admit that the abdomen on this specimen broke just a little bit. So when we're looking at it, you'll see there's a little bit of a rupture in her abdomen. And that's what you're seeing here. Normally this is very, very smooth, but her abdomen, one of the segments kind of broke. Specimens are really, really fragile, ladies and gentlemen, so making sure you treat your specimens nicely is very important. All right. So I'm just going to say, hey, we've got our wing here. I'm going to go ahead and kind of just finish it off a little bit and maybe give it that little bit of the, that shading on the edge. But our abdomen does kind of curl down just a little bit. So if you are looking at if you're kind of looking at the body line, right, we've got our head and our thorax kind of align, and then there's this drop in the abdomen. And the drop in the abdomen is not because it's broken. That is natural. They do kind of curl their abdomen up a little bit, or down. So, I'm going to try and give ourselves right about where we think the abdomen is going to kind of leave from the wing. So right about here. And I'm just going to kind of pull it all the way down. And our goal is to come to a point. It'll probably be, that feels about right. So we've got this little bit of a half moon, and then we're going to be coming back. And then giving yourself kind of this basic shape at first is going to be really helpful, and then going back and adjusting your lines as needed, right? So making sure that you kind of have an idea of where you want the abdomen to fall, but then we have the sternites and the tergites, right? We've done a couple of wasps for the last couple of weeks, hymenopterans, so we know a little bit about sternites and tergites. Sternites are the ones on the bottom, tergites are the ones on the top, right? So, you can kind of imagine a center line that, it's probably not a center line. It's probably the bottom third. So if you imagine kind of taking this line and drawing it so that, kind of like that. So you can see that there's about 2/3 on the top and about 1/3 on the bottom. You've got this kind of center line. And that line is going to be where the tergites and the sternites meet up. Okay? Now, we're going to do segments. So we've got 1 segment, 2 segment, 3 segments, and then the end. Then that's what we can see. I think that there's probably another abdominal segment up there underneath the wing that we can't see. But that's all right. So I'm going to go ahead and give us kind of 1 segment right about there that just kind of gives us an idea of where we're starting. And then maybe 1 about here. And we're only drawing our segment lines to this middle line. And I'll show you why in a minute. So we're going to give us 1. We're going to give us this one. And then we're going to give ourselves this one. And then 1 more kind of here at the end. And where this one touches, you can go ahead and erase that rest of that middle line. You're not going to need it anymore. Now, we'll go ahead and give our, to the top of this abdomen. So if we are looking here, Wherever you see a segment, instead of it being a straight line, we're going to kind of create a little angle. We're going to kind of create this little, we're going to give it a little L, right? And then the next segment kind of starts underneath that one. That's going to give you the appearance of the segments kind of interlocking into each other. Alrighty. And we're going to do almost the same thing on the other side. But we're going to make sure that these ones are not as strong. So the top ones are going to be pretty strong. The bottom ones almost fit together fairly evenly. So we're going to go ahead and give us these. Alright, and then where they connect, you can see right about here we have this angle and we have this angle. So we're going to go ahead and give ourselves those, which are going to look like this. We're going to come from the bottom line and then we're going to follow through. And then we can erase that third line. And then we're going to come through. Alright, we're going to come through. Alright, and that is how I'm going to give myself the abdominal segments. And I believe... oh, her stinger isn't out. Sometimes they die with their stinger a little bit out. So you can almost kind of give them that stinger if you want. That's our Tarantula Hawk. So we were able to draw our Tarantula Hawk from the dorsal side, the top side, right? Where we were able to see all of the segments and the wing venations and those types of things that we were curious about. But really, when we're trying to identify it to family, we're going to be looking about here. If we're deciding on an actual characteristic for genus, I'm not sure what the distinctive characteristic that if you see it, you know it's a Pepsis wasp. But I would say these wasps in general are fairly distinctive based on their size and their color and their locations. There is a body part that I'm still kind of curious about, and that's the mouth. Is anyone else feeling that? Does anyone else want to look at our friend's mouth? I don't know how well we're going to be able to see it because the antennae have been in the way. But we can definitely try. Well, that's cool. Oh, wow. All right. Okay. I think I can describe this to you guys. Oh, this is fun. All right, deal. We're going to draw a head. I'm just going to take this little space here, and I'm going to box it off. And I'm going to draw the head in this little space. Okay. All right. Thank you, Kim, for hanging out with us. We're just going to be finishing the head probably, and then saying our farewells. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, because I want to see the shape of the head from the front. All right. So, Eric Eaton says the wings are covered in golden orange scales. I've never zoomed in on the orange wings far enough to see those scales. So now we're definitely going to have to go and check those out after our head. But I just got our head all focused, so I don't want to move it just yet. Is it possible then, Eric, that the orange little flakes that we were seeing on the side of the body, that we were seeing like right about underneath the wings, were actually the orange scales instead of pollen bits? Is that possible? Oh, this is really cool. Okay, so I've always imagined a tarantula hawk head as very kind of oblong, but now, looking at it even closer, I'm looking at, this is the top of the head, and then coming down, this is about the bottom of the head and where the mouth parts start. And then you have this mandible here and here, and then this is kind of like... It's essentially the tarantula hawk's tongue. It's what it uses to kind of slurp up that nectar. So that's going to be a little bit, it gives you a little bit of an idea of where we're going. So this circle right here is where we're going to be starting. And then the connection to the mandibles, or to where they actually can chew from, is up here, right directly underneath the eyes. And then this extension right here is a continuation of the mouth parts. And these, we'll even zoom in a little bit. But right here, you can see that my tarantula hawk has mouth fingers, or little labial palps. We'll go back and check it out, Eric, so that you can see it too. Ladies and gentlemen, if I am going too fast, you can go ahead and slow me down. Just be like, hey, Trisha, I wasn't done. I want to see that part still. I try not to move too fast, but sometimes I just get too excited. Whoops. All right. So we're going to go ahead and give ourselves these compound eyes. They're mostly circular, but there is a little bit... there is a little bit of shaping here. So we can go ahead and make sure we give our friend, our tarantula hawk, the eyes that she deserves. Alright, and she's got these 3 little ocelli, or little simple eyes right here on the top. Now, I'm going to admit, I'm not going to draw the antenna when we're drawing this head-on version, because I don't want the antenna to block off what I want to draw for the mouth parts. So I'm just going to draw these 2 little kind of like little half U's to signify that that's where the antenna would have connected if I was drawing them. All right. And her head is actually... not all the way circular on the bottom. All right, so we've got this little bit of we have this little bit of indentation on the left and the right, and that's actually where our mandibles are going to come. And she does not have very, like, she's got decent looking mandibles, but she doesn't have, they're not very wide. They're kind of these long, thin, narrow, more narrow, mandibles. And if we zoom in on those little fellas, very carefully. Oh, come back. There we go, there we go, there we go. Okay. So if we zoom in on these mandibles, we're seeing their connection is here, and they move down this way, and they've got a connection here, and they move down this way. And it looks like this, her left mandible, or the one that we see on the right, is kind of over top of the other one. She needs braces. No, I'm joking. All right, so we have those two guys there. Now, we don't just have mandibles, though. We also have that that drinking mouth part that helps her slurp up all of that yummy, yummy nectar. And that drinking part is broken up into kind of a left side and a right side. So you can see you can see that there's this this side over here and this side over here, and I believe that that's mostly kind of a protective covering, a protective left side and right side for this kind of slurpy tongue mouth part in the center. And so we're gonna go ahead and give her tongue. We're going to make sure we give it that double line, right? So that we can kind of know that they are left and right. Oh my goodness. I think it is so funny that you guys have the ability to slow me down. So I can go my normal speed and you guys can just slow me down on your side. I love it. Oh man. You can force me into slow motion. Alright. Segment 1. Segment 2. I agree. This is a really cool view. I really like this little bit right here. That must be like... Is that the part that actually absorbs the liquid from the flowers? Like, is this the spongy type nectary? Now I'm going to have to learn a little bit more about how actually tarantula hawk wasps drink. Because I think that this is really kind of cool that it has all of these little flanges on it. And I wouldn't know what to call them. But I'm going to draw them. And say, she's got a tongue. Oh, cool. Hey, guys, Eric Eaton's not sure either. That makes me happy. Alrighty. So yeah, she's got this really cool thing happening down here. Now, if we see... Yeah, looks like there are some fine hairs. Let's see. I might be able to zoom in just a little bit more. Oh, maybe a lot more. Let's see if we can check those out a little bit. Yeah, they are definitely cetos. They definitely have all types of heads. Yeah, I was about to say, Marley, we can actually see their labial palps or her mouth fingers. And so we'll be able to check that out in a minute. But I wanted to see these. I think that it's really interesting that she has these angles on the end of these mouth parts, on the end of this mouth part right here. And on these angles, you see all of these hairs, but the hairs are all moving up like this, almost like they are, they might be used to like pull the liquid up through, right? So like the hairs are almost facing in the correct direction where, that's really cool. And then this part is really sclerotized. It's hard and shiny, and you can see that there are all these like little itty bitty divots in it. So there's a little bit of a structural thing there too. Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and give us these little angles down here, just so that we know. And you know what? I might even go. And then all of these little hairs that are all, I wanted to zoom in a little bit so that I could show all of these little hairs that are going in the correct directions. That's wild. Capillary action. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I meant. When, like, the hairs, they might help with some capillary action. Might help with that actually kind of just pulling the liquids up through. That's cool. All right, so we are going to go ahead and see if we can find those. It's Sclerites. All right, so I will, if you want to say a sclerite, which is spelled S-C-L-E-R-I-T-E, that's going to be an individual, imagine it like an individual plate on an insect's body. So a sclerite is an exoskeleton plate. All right. You can say that something is sclerotized, and that means that it is hardened. So you can say that the exoskeleton is sclerotized, right? If you are looking at, let's see, what am I thinking about? Maybe a grub, right? So you're gardening and you see a C-shaped grub, right? And its whole body is all soft and squishy like, right? But then its head is hard. And you could say that the head is sclerotized, right? So when we're saying that, we're just saying that it's covered in a hard exoskeleton. Sclerotized. Okay. Oh, yeah, I was looking for mouth fingers. Now the antennae are just a little bit in the way, but we can see two of them, and I believe they're both labial palps, but we also can have maxillary palps, all right? So, I would say that these are probably labial, though. And we've got this one right here, so you can see this segment with the little individual pieces. And then, if we change the zoom just a little bit, you can see that there is another one right about here. All right, so I believe, from what we can see, she's going to have two labial palps on each side. And one of them has a bunch of, this one up here has a bunch of little segments, and this one is kind of longer. So we can go ahead and kind of sketch that out a little bit. as it turns out, I should have chosen the next page and drawn this even bigger. I didn't know I was going to get so detailed on this mouth. No, but that's awesome. So I think we've got all of the pieces drawn on this mouth part. I can go ahead and make it a little bigger for you guys if you want to see what I've drawn. So we have this guy right here. It's the head. We've got our compound eyes, the simple eyes or the ocelli, the mandibles, and this wicking device. That's that mouth that we were checking out. And then we have these palps. Alrighty. Now, we've had a couple of questions occur as we were looking at the mouth, one of which was, hey, is it possible that the orange little dots that we were seeing on the side of its body were not pollen, but, scales off of the wings? I carefully move the specimen. Alright, so I'm going to zoom in. Let's see. Okay. So this is what we were looking at before. So you can see that it has all of these little golden specks all over the place underneath the wings. And the question was whether or not these might be little itty bitty scales that came off of the wings, or if it could be pollen. And it's possible that it's either, but what I want to see are these scales on the wings that Eric mentioned. I've never zoomed in all the way on these guys. Oh, cool. All right, let's get that in focus so that everyone can see. I definitely think it's a possibility that it's just scales from the wings, not pollen. All right, and because Pepsis glitter. Oh, Marley, I love that. So if we're looking in this area, you can see that the wings, they're not actually that color. These are little, almost look like hairs, but they're scales. Yeah, it is a little bit of an older specimen. So you got me there, Eric. I didn't collect a Pepsis this year when I went out west. I was kind of sad. I saw one or two, but I didn't really collect them. Thank you, Eric. Oh, man. Yeah, so that is what our wings are going to look like. So I'm pretty excited that it's got all of those little itty-bitty scales. Okay, so, look at us. Yeah, so it doesn't look like there's a bare or a bald spot anywhere on the specimen. Time to zoom in on the Pepsis glitter and see if that helps our... could be either. It might even be a mixture. There might be, you know, some of these that look kind of longer could definitely be scales that fell off the wings. But I would definitely say that it's possible. What was the magnification on the scale, the closest that we got? Let's see. Ha ha ha. I don't know if I know how to tell you that. I'm glad we zoomed in on that question too. Deborah, I really would like to answer your question about what the magnification is when we zoomed in super, super far on those scales. The eyepieces are at 10 times, but the camera isn't going through the eyepieces, which is where I'm kind of like trying to do my math. But when I zoom in all the way, the furthest that I can zoom in is 4.5 times the eyepieces, which are at 10 times. So would it be 45 times? I think that it would be something like 45 times the magnification. But, I'm going to have to look into that for you. So, I'm going to write a note to myself because I keep forgetting. This program, the Microscope program actually has the ability to measure itself. I can put measurement lines, scale bars on the magnifying, on Amscope. But I have to calibrate it first. And so I will have it calibrated for next time so that we'll be able to, instead of talking about the number of magnification, we'll just be able to say it, we'll be able to measure directly on the microscope. That'll be even better. All right. Cool deal. Yeah, and Eric says it's definitely possible that she was also just digging around underground. So some of those little itty-bitty particles, it could be a mixture of sand. Because she is from the desert, right? Let's see. This one in particular was collected in 2010, so this is a 12-year-old specimen. And that might mean that it was the first tarantula. 2010? This has got to be the first tarantula hawk I ever collected. And this was collected in Payson, Arizona. Oh, man. Do I have a story for you? That year when I was in Payson, Arizona, I was collecting with a collecting partner, and we were running all over the place. Payson is one of those cities in Arizona where entomologists know to go because the bugs are awesome there. So if you were ever in Arizona and you were looking for some buggies, Payson is a great place to hang out, especially at nighttime when there's you can go to, that seems about right, about 40 times. Yeah, that's about right. So in Payson, there is, it's a small city, so when it gets dark, there are places like gas stations that have their lights on and stuff, and that's what we call kind of island hopping. You can go from one gas station to another gas station, and all the insects get attracted to all of the bright lights. Well, I was in a strip mall with my collecting partner, and we got so excited because I think we saw a tarantula climbing the wall of a building, and so we wanted to go and take pictures of it and check it out, and we got really excited. So there wasn't anyone around. It's the middle of the night. We kind of stopped the car and jumped out of the car and ran towards the tarantula, and we kind of left the car running a little bit. And we ended up having a police officer come and chat with us. He was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "You know your car is still running, right?" And you're like, "But do you see this tarantula? Check that out." And so we had an interesting conversation with him because he was like, "What are you doing anyway?" And we're like, "Well, we're collecting insects. Check these out." And so we start pulling specimens out of our pockets, because you don't want to get in trouble for that type of stuff. It's like, no, we are entomologists. We're doing this for science. We have all these really cool specimens. And he goes, "Oh, you're one of those people." And he turns around and walks away. So I guess even the police officers in Payson know that entomologists like to collect bugs there. Because I guess we weren't the first people that he had ran into kind of wandering around in the middle of the night collecting bugs. All right. So, that is my Tarantula Hawk for the day. We actually did make it the whole 90 minutes, so I'm pretty proud of us. We were able to draw 3 different views of our Tarantula Hawk. We were actually able to see 3 different views of our Tarantula Hawk, the dorsal, the lateral, and a head-on view, which is one of my favorites. I love checking out the mouth parts, and I'm definitely going to have to go and read a little bit about these guys. Thank you, everyone, so much for hanging out with me today. If you have not done so yet, my YouTube channel says about 50% of you guys out there are not subscribed yet. So, if you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It really helps, and you get a notification when I post new videos. So there is that. If you ever have any bug-related questions, you can always shoot me an email. I love answering bug questions. Or if you got a picture of a bug and you're not sure what it is, I might be able to help you identify it. So I just shot my email into the chat box. So that's going to be my email. Reach out to me with any questions or comments. If you really enjoyed hanging out with me today and you wanted to help support me in my endeavor of drawing and sharing my love of insects with the world, you can go ahead and throw me just a little itty-bitty tip. That's up to you. I just like to throw it out there. My PayPal is also connected to that email account. All right. I do Guess That Bugs on Instagram. My Instagram account is Insectopia 2015. And if you go and check out my Instagram, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I post Microscope pictures at 10, 12, and 5. And you can go and check out the first image is a lot of times something zoomed in really far, and I see, can you identify the bug, right? And you get a hint, and then at 5 o'clock, you get the answer. So it's always a series of 3 pictures, and I do it 3 times a week, so you can always come and check that out. If you know a child between the ages of, 5 and 12 or 13, and they want to learn a little bit about insects, or you've got a bug lover in your life, I teach out-school classes to kids for illustration like this, but also I teach insect communication classes, and I have a weekly insect studies class where we don't get as detailed as this, but we talk about a different insect every week. This week we were chatting about ants. All right, so I just want to say thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I will see you all next week. Same time, same place. All right, have a wonderful rest of your week.